Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural broadcast of the Aegis Defenders League. My name is Gordo, and I am joined tonight by Trajan, and we have got an excellent matchup tonight between two of our highest-rated teams, Pawn Sacrifice White and Virtue Gaming Ambition. Trajan, you excited for the evening?
Oh, I could not be more excited. A return to casting. We're going to see some great action on the Rift, and we have I'm hoping a banger of a series ahead of us. It's looking like these teams are going to be pretty well matched tonight. Whereas as far as what we can hope, right?
Yeah, absolutely. These are two of our big, highest-rated teams coming on in here when you're seeding the groups out there. I know Pawn Sacrifice is rated as number one in regards to the points we assign based on player ranks, while Virtue Gaming sitting there at number three. So these guys, at least based on rank alone, should be expected to be some of the top contenders in this group here. And we're going to start off the league by watching them face off against each other in a best of three.
Yeah, 100%. It's really interesting when we kind of take a look at the rosters themselves. We do see some interesting, I'm gonna say interesting decisions, but we do know that I'm curious to see how number two Ginger does for the side of Virtue Gaming here, as it is going to be a role swap for them. They have moved to the top lane to split, and most of their experience has been in the mid lane, and those lanes are pretty different. So I'm really curious to see how they do going up against General Vici.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit of definitely a little bit of crossover as far as champion pools go, but those lanes so incredibly different, and gonna really be a challenge to see if he's able to adapt to that new lane here. To talk about format a little bit here, we do have a 5-week group stage here. 2 different groups of 6 teams will compete in a single round robin or best of 3, and at the very end, each team will receive a rank based on their standings, and pretty much everybody does still get to go into the postseason. We'll have a 3-week playoff stage, or play-in stage rather, where the top 2 teams from each group auto-qualify for playoffs, and the remaining 4 will then play in a Swiss system where 4 total teams will be eliminated until finally we get our top 8 in a single elimination bracket for the playoffs.
Yeah, it's gonna be a, I won't say it's gonna be a bloody run for these teams. We do see a lot of our higher teams pushing with players closer to them, high diamond and low masters mark. So it's not like we're gonna be watching watching some lower elo performances throughout the split.
Yeah, no, we started off Vanguard League yesterday, which is the uncapped league over here at Aegis, but the Defenders League still really going to be certainly a competitive one to keep our eyes on. Definitely some of the Masters players are going to be present on these teams, leading in with, Diamond 1, Diamond 2, players really up at the upper echelons of the ranked ladder there, going to be coming on in here today. And as we already said, these guys, some of the highest ranking ones out of everybody in the league. So should be a close matchup, at least if we're going to go off of those standings. Haven't gotten to quite see these teams compete yet, though, and it's going to be really exciting to see who gets off to the right start that they're looking for, and who's going to get off maybe on the wrong foot a little bit, have to try to climb back early on.
Oh yeah, 100% Gordo.
All right, we're having a couple of lobby delays there for the time being, as these players are just getting everybody in order, getting everything sorted on out. So might be a short delay here. Yeah, actually, we'll send it to a quick break before we get started with our first game, but do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back with Champion Select as soon as all the players are set up. All right, we're back probably for real this time. Keeping an eye on that Twitch chat to see if we're muted again. But we are back here with week 1 of the group stages for Aegis Defenders League. We got a great matchup tonight between Pawn Sacrifice White and Virtue Gaming Ambition. We have resolved all of our roster crises, and it looks like we're going to be ready to get into Champion Select in just a few short moments.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what both these teams bring to the table for us. Interested to see if they want to try to stick to heavier meta picks or look to deviate away from them. I guess we'll kind of see what direction they want to go for. The biggest ones for me are really going to be the jungle influences right now. So it does look like we're going to be getting into our first ban phase here, and Lulu is the first one that PSW will hover. This support, Riot Games just has an obsession with her, I feel like, and they don't want to let her go.
Yeah, absolutely here, and especially paired up with things like the Xinjiao right now, which we've seen Sprint bring out a variety of times already. So really something we want to keep an eye on for the side of VGA. Can really see why PSW wants to keep that one band on away. The Nocturne now being hovered on here. We know Nocturne still very good in the jungle, got a little bit nerfed in the lane. That's actually going to be a Vel'Koz ban. That's going to be directed right towards Ben Zayton here. We know he plays a whole bunch of that champion in the mid lane, and they are not going to want to deal with it here and now today.
Yeah, we're looking at PSW taking out the Tahm Kench here. This champion, since his rework, has been, well, actually, since this last patch where they just buffed him again, has been absolutely wrecking havoc in the top lane. Positive win rates across most of his matchups, and it's just been kind of a nightmare for almost any AD bruiser. So probably pretty happy to see that one get taken out of the pool here. VGA looking to knock out the Senna here, and then PSW, they're going to round it out with the Xin Zhao ban, which means they're not looking to first pick it. So we'll have to see what they want to try to get as their first option for blue side.
Yeah, VGA really focusing in here on the comfort picks for Pawn Sacrifice White. We know that Jacob Keith, he's a big fan of the Senna as well. That's his most played in solo queue. Already talked about Ben Zayton's Vel'Koz. That's his most played in solo queue. So really going to be focusing in on taking away comfort for PSW. They're willing to let him play meta comps, but they want to make sure that they at least have to not have a billion games played on the champions they're locking on in. Diana going to be the last ban, and now Vici, he's going to lock on in that Irelia.
Yeah, Irelia being here is interesting. She'll be receiving a nerf in this upcoming patch, but since her rework, now that people have kind of gotten a feel for her, her scaling has been absolutely incredible, Gordo. So getting into those late game transitions for her, she doesn't have that point where she'll hit 3 or 4 items and really kind of start to fall off in comparison to some of these other carries. That being said, we do see the Viego and Thresh getting locked in here for VGA. Thresh just being a really good engage and disengage tool for them, and Viego is going to be possessing a few people this game, I would be safe to assume.
Yeah, certainly will be here. And with that Viego locked on in, want to keep our eyes open for that other new champion, the Gwen here, has managed to evade nerfs thus far. I know some of the attack speed on Skip and Slash getting taken away next patch, but for now, still plenty strong, and would be a nice selection here for the side of PSW if they want to go and trade those power picks. Instead, they're going to lock on in the Nautilus here, very likely for Mr. Big. And now Lilia being hovered on here would be an AP jungler to flank a potential Irelia mid, and it's going to get locked on in.
Yeah, I actually really like the Lilia pick here from the side of PSW. You have a really good pick potential already with Nautilus and Irelia, but innately Irelia, when she wants to go in, if she doesn't have a lot of good follow-up, she'll just get bursted down by the enemy team. So having a Lilia who has the ability to kind of lilting lullaby 3 to 4 members from the side of EGA means that it's going to be a lot safer for her to be looking for these aggressive plays. However, on the flip side, with this Aphelios being locked in, we've seen his rise come up significantly this patch, and his weapons are going to be incredibly difficult to be playing around. So PSW have to be careful about what assortment will be available for VJ's ADC here.
Yeah, and paired up with the Thresh, such a devastating bot lane duo as well, really solves for the major weakness that Aphelios has, and that he's really has a lot of difficulty both closing distance and escaping. And that Lantern going to present both of those opportunities there for the side of Quick Slice on this Aphelios. So really excited to see what they're going to be able to accomplish in that bottom lane. And a top tier support locked in alongside a top tier AD carry should definitely be something considered threatening. And VGA, they also get to pinch the AD carry pool. They ban away the Tristana, they ban away the Ezreal, and now there's very few safe options available for the side of PSW. The Varus is really something that comes to mind here, but you got to have real good execution with your teammates to be able to play a Varus, especially without something like the Thresh to make up the lack of mobility.
Yeah, for sure. And right now, if we take a look at it, like VGA, they have some of the range with Aphelios when he'll have his sniper, but realistically, they're a relatively short range comp right now. And the same thing for PSW. Like, these teams want to kind of get close and personal with each other. So Renekton's going to be the blind pick here for them for their Summit top lane. I don't know necessarily how I feel about that, especially since Renekton's his counter matchups are not really super favorable for him.
Yeah, potentially. Could be something that they want to try to flex and take up against that Irelia. I believe that
Mhm.
that matchup can go pretty favorably towards the Renekton, at least in the early levels. Instead, it's going to be Ornn here locked in for PSW, going to be guaranteeing that some of those item enchantments going to come through later on. Going to be a good engage tool, a good front line. And it's going to be the Samira here. That's the lock in for Jacob Keith in the bottom lane. Looks like they want to go real aggressive down here, and they want to go for the potential snowball here with that Samira pick.
Yeah, and this is kind of signaling to me that they like PSW they already drafted relatively aggressive, and now that you have something to set up, like the amount of setup that you're going to have for her is going to be absolutely massive, right? You have Call the Forge God, you have Lilting the Lullaby, you have um Nautilus Ultimates, Depth Charge, so it's going to be a lot of good ways for her to get into these fights, and with Irelia dancing around between minions and the champions, it's going to be a really slippery team for both of them to try to lock anything down.
Yeah, absolutely will be here. Now we're going to get into the client side draft, find out where all these champions are actually going to be going. But as you said there, really a big team fight focus here for the side of Pawn Sacrifice. They have a lot of setup to make a lot of mileage happen out of that Inferno trigger here from the Samira. A huge amount of ways to lock everybody down on the side of Virtue Gaming, and that should really give them pause with picks like this Viego, picks like this Aphelios, things that if they get locked down can really get bursted on out before they're really able to get going.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to really be on VGL to make sure that they're not being too aggressive into these. I think what they really want to be looking for is just trying to get these picks throughout the early game. You want to try to get this Renekton a lead so he can start roaming. You want to make sure that this game doesn't really go too long, right? Ornn items that are going to be coming in. Lilia scaling is quite high, and with that buff for Irelia, it's going to be relatively difficult. A lot of these fights, I'm really going to have to say that I want to be watching Ginger and Sprint in these fights because it's going to be really vital for Viego to be getting these possessions.
Yeah, absolutely is, and that's really the key to all of these Viego comps, right? Is just lock somebody down, steal away a possession there, and start to use those health regens and those refunded cooldowns to pop off in the team fight. Really, Virtue going for the entire steal your comp build here with the Silas and the Viego, going to be stealing away basic abilities and ultimates, assuming that they are able to actually get those kills to get the Viego going.
Yeah, and it's going to be on both of them, right? Like they continued the trend of being a relatively short range comp, so it's going to be on them to not get kited out by this Ornn, by this Lilia, by this Irelia. Thankfully, they have the Thresh, so the Dark Passage is going to be really crucial in a lot of these fights when they look for these picks. However, when you have a kind of I won't say a toss up, you've got your handshake lane down there with a Nautilus. I'm really going to be wanting to see Mr. Boneheart here on the Thresh, looking to get some really aggressive roams off early on.
Yeah, should have the opportunity to do so as long as it feels comfortable leaving Quick Slice down there alone. There's a lot of kill potential there from the Nautilus and the Samira. And with
Mhm.
these lock-ins now, does look like it is actually going to be number 2 Ginger on the Renekton, going up against General Vici on the Orange. So they're not going to be taking that Crocodile up against the Irelia. They're instead going to be using the Silas to face off against that pick there. Should still be a just fine matchup, but does mean that they're probably not going to have the crazy amount of lane dominance that you might hope for from a Renekton. Sure, it'll get the push up against the Ornn early on, but probably shouldn't be expected to have a huge amount of kill pressure in that matchup.
Yeah, and what this tells me, Gordo, is that Virtue Gaming they want to have they want to be looking for 2v2s in the mid lane. By inherently having Silas in the mid lane, he's not going to be able to outpush Irelia. Benziton's going to be able to get Prio really easily on him. So between him and Sprint, they're going to be looking to try to be 2v2ing onto Benziton and Legit Sack here, trying to exert some of that early pressure that they have available to them, since Irelia is weaker in the early game.
Yeah, and I really like also that they've flexed this Viego into the jungle. Feels like it is the best role for him now. He can still be taken into those lanes, as teams around the world have proven to us. But with those lane sustain nerfs, where he now gets less healing from those lane minions, it does feel like the jungle is where he can really shine the most, where he really is the closest to the power level that he was exhibiting on release when everybody really developed their deepest of hatreds for that champion in particular. On the other side, though, legit Sack taking this Lilia, something that we have not gotten to see a huge amount of play of as of late, has kind of fallen out of favor in the meta a little bit, but is going to be that AP jungler to flank on with the Irelia, should provide some really nice engage setup, which is what a lot of this team comp seems to be going for, just to set up for this Irelia and Samira, so should be a nice role player in the jungle here.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm personally really excited to see Lilia back on the Rift for us. This is the champion that personally I absolutely love to play. Like, I think her kit is not overly complicated, but when executed correctly, it's just so much fun to just run around. Now, her move speed did get nerfed, but does scale better into the late game. So it's going to be really on Legit Sec here to make sure that you're not getting caught out by this Renekton or this Viego or the Sylas, because any form of CC, you're still relatively squishy. But that being said, the passive does heal you now, so that's going to definitely be something that will play a factor into these early skirmishes.
Certainly will. We're going to keep our eyes open for that. We're going to throw it to a quick break here while we get loaded on up into the Rift for game number 1, but do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back after a short delay with game 1 between Pawn Sacrifice White and Virtue Gaming Ambition. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's broadcast of the Aegis Defenders League matchup between Pawn Sacrifice White and Virtue Gaming Ambitions. It's going to be our first broadcast of the Aegis Defenders League, and we're going to see who gets off to a head start in this group.
Yeah, really excited. We had honestly, Gordo, we had a really good drafting phase for both teams. We do see that they're looking to kind of just 5-point across the map here right now. Really, as far as this early game is going to go, I'm really hoping to see a lot of pressure up in.
Minions have spawned.
All right, and we're back here. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, but yeah, absolutely going to be keeping our eyes on that bot lane for PSW in particular. The amount of pop-off potential for both Samira and Irelia are really going to be huge.
Yep, and it does look like we're going to see a lane swap here, so they are going to be sending number 2 Ginger into the mid lane against Benziton. However, okay, no, they're going to keep themselves in the mid lane here, so it will be the Renekton in the mid lane, so it will be quite a bit more favorable for him here. And then with Sylas being in the top lane, it'll be a bit easier against an Ornn. Ornn is going to have to, like, if you're General Vici right now, you're definitely breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, definitely. Really do appreciate number 2 Ginger making a liar of me here, as they are going to be taking that Renekton into the mid lane, even though the players are going to be the ones swapping rather than the champions. This should be a really favorable matchup up against the Irelia, and Chivania fan, he should have just a fine time up against that Ornn in the top lane. Should be able to just sustain on up with the Kingslayer and make sure that he is going to be able to be successful.
Yeah, 100%. And as we kind of take a look throughout the early game, both junglers did start on their respective blue buffs, so they will be doing a cross-map clear, not going to really interact with each other too much. So we're probably going to see most of these scuttles going widely uncontested for both of them. That being said, it does look like we do see VJ's bot lane pushing in pretty aggressively down there, so we'll see if they can establish any form of priority. A little bit of a trade in the mid lane, but Chapania fan getting chunked out to about half health though, so General Vici really leveraging the high base damage that Ornn does have available to him. We'll see if he can kind of continue to keep up that amount of lane dominance and bullying, per se.
Yeah, the Ornn really does have a lot of power in those early couple of levels, has really high base damages on that Bellows Breath and that passive, so really got to watch out if you're going to end up getting chunked by a few too many of those shots there. He'll be just fine on the Sylas, should have the mobility, should have the sustain. It's just going to look to catch that wave as it comes on in. As Vici gets Prio, is going to get a little bit of vision up, pushing up towards the enemy Tri-Brush, but other than that, should not have too much to show for it. Looks like Sprint is still going to be able to get this topside Scuttler just fine, and that means Legitsac, he's going to be a little bit late here, assuming that the Scuttler does end up going down before he can arrive, and it does do so.
Yeah, really interesting pathing decision by Legitsac. Like, we know Sprint is more likely than not doing a standard blue to red clear on the red side camp. So by spending the time to walk up there to attempting to try to contest it, especially when you don't have mid prior with a Renekton facing down, it feels almost like a bit of a waste of time. And because of that, Sprint's going to be able to pick up both Scuttle Crabs and get a pretty good early game lead over Legit Sack here.
Yeah, no, very nice start for Sprint, very nice start for VGA here. It doesn't show in the kill feed quite yet, but it will show ever so slightly in the gold and will show in the XP, especially as we get in there and see these junglers start to finish out their clears. Sprint having access to a whole another jungle camp, really going to be a major advantage for him on the side of VGA. Neither of these junglers really have too much to speak of for the individual gank potential, although the Renekton in the mid lane is something I'm going to really want to keep an eye on, in particular for the side of VGA. He can set up for ganks with virtually any jungler in the game, not the least of which is going to be this Viego, who can get set up for chain stuns pretty easily there with the Renekton W.
Yeah, 100% Gordo. And as we kind of take a look at it, it does look like Benziton's trying to was forced to use the TP a little bit earlier than expected. Purchased a call, cleared up a couple of waves, and is now going to get another cheater in and hopefully come back into lane at a safe enough level that number 2 Ginger's not going to be able to pressure them as badly as they wanted to. And we kind of see here, level 5s are dinging up, level 6s are going to be right around the corner, and once we hit those marks, that's when we're going to kind of be looking to see some of these laners look for a bit more action, especially with junglers active on the map. With First Dragon being a Cloud Drake, though, I don't feel like either team's super incentivized to try to take it.
Yeah, no, not quite yet here, although we will see there's a lot of prio for the side of VGA here, although they do have their jungler up on the top side of the map. Are just going to be getting a nice little crash in on this wave and have a couple of a CS lead over to the side of Quick Slice here, really utilizing the range advantage that Aphelios brings about with the Calibrum in the early levels, is able to push on in Jacob Keith and Mr. Big B, but now it does look like Legit Sack might be looking for a little bit of a gank in the middle lane. He's going to get spotted out there by that control ward, though, end up just backing on away. He's called down General VG for assistance on this invade. We'll see if Sprint finds it out and decides to contest on his own birds, but looks like that won't happen. Mr. Bonner, he's getting engaged on in this bottom lane. That's going to be a double snare coming on across from the side of Quick Slice. No kills to be found, but nice little trade of damage in the bottom lane.
Oh, that hook from Mr. Big B was just a little too short there. But yeah, nice trade in the bot lane from us there. Sprint going to get spotted onto this ward, going to clean it up. But both junglers just kind of trying to do what they can in the mid lane to Sprint.
Alright, that is actually going to be the Vanguard's Edge thrown down there by the side of Benziton, but doesn't seem like it's able to be followed in on quite yet. Going to be a little bit of resources expended by both sides in that middle lane. No ultimate available for the junglers quite yet. That's another double snare from Quick Slice in the bottom lane, though. Mr. Big going to be trained back on in there by the play. Looking for a potential kill here, but now Sprint going in on a Legit Sack. Throws down the Heartbreaker. Here comes number 2 Ginger for the follow-up, and he's going to pick up first blood there. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, VGA winning down there as well. As Quick Slice going to be able to finish off on to both targets there. A double kill in the 2v2 for the side of Quick Slice's VGA. They win simultaneous fights across the map and get out to a 3-0 start.
Yeah, if you're VGA, you're really happy right now. Your Renekton just got a kill onto the Irelia, sending Benziton ahead, or behind quite a bit in terms of XP difference now, going to lose probably close to a wave and a half, if not 2 full waves here. And Quick Slice, this bot lane with the Aphelios Thresh, we talked about it in Champion Select. Thresh kind of is the butter for the bread that Aphelios brings, but while I'm speaking about that, we have a dive going in the top lane up here.
Yeah, General Vici so incredibly low here, going to take a bunch of damage there. The Abduct doesn't quite land for Japania fan, but might have killed him even if it did. Number 2 Ginger has come on up, though. It's a 3-man dive in the top lane, and that's going to be the pickup onto General Vici. Sprint, though, is tanking the turret for a long time. He's going to end up getting executed, but did avoid the Bellows Breath. Isn't going to give any gold back to the side of PSW. VGA, they're going to claim themselves another kill. They now have one in every single lane.
Yeah, and that was absolutely in really, really well communicated dive from them. Legit Sack trying to go for the blue buff here, steal it away, get something back for them. However, Quick Slice and Mr. Bonehard are looking to deny that.
Yeah, Benziton maybe caught recall in there a little bit. Number 2 Ginger just going to chase him down. There goes the Flawless Duet to try to slow down the Renekton, but he does get the dice off of the E-hit, dealing a bunch of damage to this Irelia. He's going to be able to Blade Surge out of there, but Benziton has his recall really delayed there. He's chunked out low, and now he's going to have a big wave crashing into mid, and he still can't recall. He's getting chased across the map by Japania fan.
Yeah, and we're seeing the communication here from VGA coming in, and it's quite clear that they're very much working well on the same page together, knowing when to time for their roams, looking to communicate when someone's able to get collapsed on here. And Chapania fan had a wave essentially frozen in front of his tower. He doesn't have really any threat because Ornn's not going to take the turret, does not have the demolish rune for himself, so he's not going to really threaten a lot from here. But as I speak, and Wonderwood's breaking out.
Yeah, there's the call. The Forge God doesn't actually get thrown back on in by Chapania fan there. Was a little bit distracted with fighting the Ornn himself, but is going to get a bunch of damage on across onto General Vici, is going to force him to take the recall there, and looking to get a little bit of a CS lead and definitely a pressure lead for Chapania fan. Although number 2 Ginger, he's going to get put to sleep there by the Lilting Lullaby. The follow-up comes on through from Benzites, and he's taking so much damage though from the Call to Meeks. Still is going to be forced to flash on away, not going to be able to finish off that kill. Nobody going to end up going on down. PSW, they force the Renekton back, but they do not have the resources. They do not have the damage to be able to take him down.
Yeah, just a really, really chunky boy there. And we do see Ginger has finished the Iron Spike equip, and more importantly, picked up the plated steel cap. So Irelia's damage output is going to be significantly negated. Oh, hello, bot lane.
Yeah, that's going to be the Death Charge coming on across. They're looking to lock down onto Quick Slice, going to follow it up with the Samira passive. They're going to be able to pick up this kill in the 2v2, and they've got the teleport coming down from General Vici at the same time. Double kill goes over to the side of Jacob Keith there. He strikes back in the bottom lane, and just like that, the scores are equalized between these two AD carries.
Yeah, we're still seeing about 1,000 gold lead for VGA, but at the end of the day, 1,000 gold is not that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things here, especially because that lead was larger just about 30 seconds ago. And thanks to the heads-up play from PSW, they were able to look for a really good pick onto Quick Slice here, and unfortunately, Mr. Boneheart just wasn't in a proper position to be able to peel for this Aphelios. The depth charge from Nautilus just being a huge tool for this bot lane for PSW. And we do see the laners have swapped it around a little bit now here. Benziten has moved back up into the top lane to cover. And we do see Sprint walking up here. Does have the flash coming up relatively soon, so potential dive incoming.
Oh, and that's going to be the dash forward from Benziten, looking to be punished on down here, and that should be a pretty easy pickup for the side of VGA. Punishes Benziten's over-aggression for the wave clear there, and another kill going into the pocket of Sprint, going to possess on up that Irelia just for the BM for a couple of seconds. Is now going to go for the wave clear as well.
Yeah, it's always the most depressing thing when you see an Irelia just kind of queue to every minion in a wave and they just kind of cease to exist. However, Legit Sack is not where you want to be.
Yeah, I gotta watch out for that Ruthless Predator coming on through from the Renekton. Not quite going to get caught on out there. It's a little bit too fast on the deer. Now, Sprint, he's already picked on up that Rift Herald and is going to throw it down in mid, but Quick Slice, he's getting ganked to the bottom lane. Benziten uses his TP to try to get a kill back in the bottom lane. Is looking to try to pick it up. Doesn't appear to have the Blade Surge, though. He's not going to be able to finish him on off, and now Mr. Bonnard, he's going in aggressively, flashes on into the bottom lane. Looks like the escape is going to come on through. Now, number 2 Ginger is forced to back away in the mid lane as well. Going to be no more kills coming on across, but CPSW, they're trying to fight to stay back in it. So Jitsack going to get stunned on up here by the side of number 2 Ginger, just puts him to sleep or run on away. General VG coming on in for the engage. Number 2 Ginger taken down incredibly low. Sprint going before the Heartbreaker over the wall. General VG gets a nice knock up there. Is going to be hooked in response to Tanya Fan trying to put out the damage. Here comes Jacob Keith trying to get some damage in, trying to get the Inferno trigger set on up with the style points. Is not going to be able to do so, but it is a pressure win for the side of PSW. They're going to look to start on up this first dragon.
Yeah, and you kind of saw there that the PSW had a couple of small skirmishes that went on, and because they forced Aphelios out of bot lane so that he had to burn his heal and was too low to really respond to do anything else, they were able to rotate his unit up into the mid lane, exert more pressure, and stop this advance from VGA with that Rift Herald. And it did die to turret when the plate gold did go over to them, but at the end of the day, PSW picks up the first dragon of the game 12 minutes in. It is going to be a Cloud Soul, which isn't the most useful of the dragons, realistically, but having that extra ability haste on your ults is going to be quite nice. And Vici and Sprint are just kind of staring at each other right now, it looks like.
Yeah, Benziten coming on down, though. They're looking to just lock down onto Sprint to try to pick him up. Look at all this damage coming on through from the side of General Vici. He might actually be able to pick up this kill solo. Does manage to do so. It's a nice pick back up for the side of PSW. Now this fight in the bottom lane is not going in Quick Slice's favor. Mr. Big B going to pick up that kill as well. It's 2 more kills getting over by PSW, all within just a second of each other. They're mimicking VGA in the earlier minutes of this game, and they look to be clawing on back. Great.
Yeah, 100%. A little bit of a trade and a scuffle here in the mid lane as Ginger's trying to go into Benziton, but with a fully stacked passive and a Iron Spike Whip as well, I don't know if you necessarily want to take that fight into an Irelia, especially since it does look like Dominus is currently down. We're kind of seeing PSW doing a really good job, so huge credit to Mr. Big on this Nautilus right now. They are playing this lane incredibly smart. They're specifically targeting the Aphelios, which is what they need to be doing. But two, they're abusing the fact that Mr. Bowenhard is positioning more defensively. He wants to be looking for these dark passages to try to get Quick Slice out. But when Quick Slice gets CC'd for 4 seconds, and you have a Samira that can one-shot your Aphelios almost, you don't have to be positioning defensively. If you're Boneheart, Mr. Boneheart right now, you need to be looking to be more aggressive in that lane and standing between yourself and this Nautilus. Because if your ADC gets hit, we've seen it a couple of times now, he just dies.
Yeah, no, the burst potential out of this bot lane duo from PSW is huge here. Jacob Keith and Mr. Bigby, they collapse on that first opportunity that they get. They're able to force Quick Slice on out of there and able to pick up another kill for themselves. Now it looks like Strike Back might be coming through from VGA, though. Sprint coming on in, looking to try to CC up some targets. They are looking to just push on in onto this wave, getting a little bit of vision control, but not much else to show for it here and now. Benziton, though, he's going to face check into Sprint here, gets a lot of damage traded back onto him. Number 2 Ginger is coming on across. Vanguard's edge comes on down. Benziton trying to escape, but the Heartbreaker comes on through, and that's going to be the first kill of the fight. Picked up for Sprint, and just like that, PSW are going to have to back away. They got to be very careful about this Irelia that Sprint is now possessing. Jitsak just going to have to run away from his own red side jungle. VGA picked themselves up another kill on the bottom side.
Yeah, and for VGA, this is what they want to be doing. They just want to fish for picks and try to get Sprint someone. If they can do that successfully, almost every fight's going to go their way. But meanwhile, in the top lane, something interesting, Gordon. I don't know if you noticed this, but General Vici built themselves an Executioner's Blade.
Well done. Yeah, that really is something there. Just really wants to make sure he can apply that passive to Champagne Man instead of...
no.
Actually, as I say, that Quick Slice going to get engaged on the bottom lane again. Just gets blown up instantly. Now Mr. Bonehard going to have to try to back away as well. X-Sprint is coming on in, trying to make the gap closed on up. Is going to be able to do so. Champagne Man picks up that kill on Jacob Keith. VGA get themselves a trade back as Quick Slice gets caught on out in the bottom lane. Has to expend his flash as well. Still ends up going on down. They are going to be able to shut down Jacob Keith in response, and it looks like they are going to be able to pick up the first turn of the game down here as well. So VGA, they still come out ahead in the macro play.
Yeah, and if you're a Quick Slice, you're looking at them going, you can kill me once, you can kill me twice, but if you kill me thrice, we take your turret. And that's exactly what happened. Really good heads up TP from Chapanya fan, bullying General Vici out of lane quite easily here. Now, something as we kind of talked about here is we see Legit Sack steal away the red buff away from Sprint. The Executioner's Blade for this Orin is really interesting to me just because Thornmail inherently just doesn't do quite as much. Quick Slices.
Yeah, he's got the slows coming on through from the grabbing him there. Gets a lot of damage down onto General Vici. Has that Kraken Slayer to do a little bit of additional damage to this tank with the true damage procs. As you said, that Executioner's calling for General Vici. Not going to do much to protect up against this Aphelios. This team is starting up the Rift Herald here. Should be going over to the side of PSW. VGA, they just do not have the members to try to contest this.
Yeah, they just all had to reset off of this bot lane play, and now that they're going to be looking for the second dragon, as they do have the posturing available for it. If I'm them, I really want to crack this mid-tier 1 first, kind of open up the map, really take over this red side quadrant away from PSW, and make it a lot harder for them to try to pressure anything on that side of the map. We do see Mountain Drake will be the second dragon of the game here, so we're going to be looking at either an Infernal Soul or an Ocean Soul, which both are incredibly volatile, and if you're on both teams, you're both going, hey, we kind of want this. This is going to be something that is going to be worth fighting over. But we do see the resets coming out from the side of PSW. They are fresh off buys here. Relatively even in gold for the bot lane right now, even though they gave up some early kills. The biggest deficits that we're kind of seeing are going to be up in your top lane and mid lane right now.
Yeah, VGA, they have Sprint down there. He's the first one to arrive towards the dragon there. But PSW, they do have more members. So you can see number 2 Ginger, he's up in that top lane, has access to the teleport. Terrell going to be thrown on down in that middle lane, going to crash in, going to do a little bit of damage, but not going to be able to pick up the turret. Sprint. Now he's going to retreat back into his own jungle, was on vision, is now clearing it on out, but this is a 5-man squad of PSW collapsing onto this dragon. They should be able to pick this one up for themselves. And VGA, they decide they're going to let it go on over. They're going to try to trade for topside jungle camps, and they're going to try to get topside tower as well. And number 2 Ginger, he's been up there alone for quite a while now. You gotta believe he's going to be able to pick it up, and he does.
Yeah, able to pick up the first turret there in the top lane for the side of VG, or the second turret of the game for them. However, this mid-tier 1 does still stand. That being said, the outer turret, your top and bot turrets now are going to give more localized gold. So getting that extra gold surplus onto one of your carries or your early game carry champions like a Renekton is going to be really good, helping you facilitate hitting those power spikes of the Sterix Gauge, of the Stride Breaker, or Gore Drinker, whatever flavor of the month we decide to go with today. But we do see them conceding the second dragon here, and with it being an Infernal Soul, if you're VGA, you're going, okay, we have to fight for this third dragon, and they have to put themselves into a position where they're able to. And
they're doing a good job of getting themselves to that point, as you were saying. That's already almost a 4K gold lead in their favor, and they're going to be looking to try to leverage that gold once we do get towards that third dragon fight. And meanwhile, though, they're just going to be looking to clear on away some camps here. They got about 4 more minutes left on their timer, where they can still suck up as much gold as possible and get themselves in the best position possible to take these fights.
Now, this is an interesting, we could call it a little statistic for you, Gordo. When's the last time you've seen a jungler have a higher vision score than a support?
Oh boy, it's certainly been a while here, but as we say that, Chapania fan, he's going in aggressively in this bottom lane, stealing away that call to Forge God, using it to collapse onto the Forge God himself. And Sprint's going to pick himself up another kill there in the bottom lane. VGA, once again, they catch somebody on PSW, pushed up a little bit too far. They come on in with this 3-man topside crew, and they pick themselves up another kill.
Yeah, and we do see here the mid-tier 1 is going to be forced down by the side of PSW here. So VGA is feeling the pressure on themselves to try to collapse and get that mid-tier 1 down for themselves as well. As long as that stands, it's going to be very hard for them to establish mid-priority right now. In PSW, they want to be playing for this Dragon Soul. That being said, Legitstack is looking for a cheeky little flank here, but it will get spotted out by Pichania Fan relatively easy. And now that we have all 5 members here, I'm sensing a turret dive, Gordo.
Yeah, it's definitely a risk. There are still 3 members coming on through here. Mr. Big B, he's going to land that dredge line, but he might have bit off more than he can chew here as the full engage comes on across, and they're just going to meld right on through that Lily, and not even an opportunity to take the fight here. But now Jacob Keating's bringing it around. He's got the Inferno Trigger running, looking to finish up on a quick slice. Not going to be able to do so, but General BG going to be able to do so on the other side. Now number 2 Trigger, he's looking to try to finish off onto another member and is going to be able to do so. The fight on the other side is all going in the favor of Virtue Gaming. They got the resets across onto their Viego, and they're going to be able to win the fight 5-2.
Yeah, and what we were talking about earlier, Gordo, right? This is exactly what VGA wants. They want to try to get Sprint just a single reset. A single reset in these fights is all they need. And General VG got a 5-man knockup with the Call of the Forge God, but at the end of the day, it just didn't matter. Legitstack flashed forward aggressively, trying to get a 4 to 5 person Lilty Lullaby, and they did. The combination of CC spells and ultimates from the side of PSW was fantastic. But Viego got a reset. He was able to possess someone, and it turns the fight completely sideways for them. Immediately going to a massive numbers disadvantage, in addition to having the ulti reset on the Heartbreaker, means that not only is it going to be really hard to kill this Viego, but he's going to be able to do so much more damage than he would normally be able to without any form of possession.
Yeah, absolutely there. And this just shows VGA, they've got the substantial gold lead, and they have a comp with so many threats on it. It's so difficult to actually deal with every single one of them. PSW, they execute the fight well. They get a nice Inferno Trigger. They get a huge amount of damage onto Quick Slice and number 2 Ginger. They're able to take them both pretty much out of the fight. Number 2 Ginger taken down so low there. But Chapania Fan and Sprint, they can just do it all on their own. They take the fight to the back line of PSW. They finish on off the remaining members, and they're still able to win the fight for their team.
Yeah, and it is getting rapidly to a point here where they, for the side of VGA, they can just start looking to force these fights, right? They're going to be up over about 5,500 gold at this point. Most of your champions have 2 items, have 2 to 2.5 items on the side of VGA, while PSW, they're struggling to finish their second items with the exception of Jacob Keith. Now, Jacob Keith does have the Collector finished. That is a massive spike for someone like Samira, where she's going to be looking to do a lot of damage. And with that Inferno Trigger, the procs from it can be potentially out of nowhere on some of these champions. Oh,
Yeah,
but Sprint finding Vici again.
yeah, the teleport already coming on through here from the side of Japania fan, looking to try to finish on off the fight. On Vici is going to be able to do so. Sprint is going to go on a rampage there, and already it's a 4v5 here for the side of VGA. They're looking to keep the fight going on in the Vanguard's edge. Comes on across, trying to keep defense on across, and he's not going to be able to do anything here. Look at the AoE damage the Renekton's bringing out. Look at the resets coming through from Sprint. That's a 5-for-0 ace for the side of VGA. No Dragon going over to the side of PSW, and VGA, they're marching straight for the Baron.
Yeah, they're going, hey, you know what? We can send Ginger down here to take this dragon. It doesn't matter. He'll be able to solo it. We're just, in the meantime, going to pick up this Baron, extend this gold lead, and look to kind of close out game 1 of our series here. And a really, really great performance from them. And it's really funny because when you get into these drafts and you look at them initially, obviously you have the Viego for a win con for them. You can kind of look at it and go, yeah, if he gets a possession, it's really good. But when you look at this comp, one of the scariest members that you kind of see is Aphelios, right? When he gets optimal weapons, which he does have now with Baron buff and with an Infernal Drake, you think he's going to be the one outputting the most damage in these fights, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be, because the front line for VGA is so sturdy now. And with the Guardian Angel getting finished for Sprint, it's going to be incredibly hard for PSW to even try to kill this Viego.
Yeah, no, there's such tanky frontliners that are also outputting so much damage too. This Renekton, the Sylas, the Viego. It's just really difficult for them to actually burst through them the way they want. You saw Ben Zeitzen, he was able to get a big Vanguard's edge there, was able to get the procs onto everybody, but he just can't survive long enough to be blade searching on a cross, even with the regen that it presents, even with the Gore Drinker that he's opted for in his build. He just can't stay alive long enough to pull out the fight where his team needs him to.
Yeah, 100%. And it does look like PSW is angling to maybe have a final stand, as we do see a 1-3-1 coming out from VGA, more or less playing the comp that they want to be doing it. A lot of these picks, to kind of go back a little bit and talk about, a lot of these picks and these plays have been facilitated by General Vici overextending, right? The bot lane tier 1 got taken out, and Ornn got caught overextending, and that forced a really bad fight for them. And it allowed the rest of the members of VGA to rotate mid and facilitate a 5-person dive. And this last play, again, General Vici trying to walk into their bot side jungle, getting caught out again by 2 members of VGA, meaning that the rest of the team can kind of collapse here. And now we just see that VGA, they just want to force these fights here.
Yeah, it's just going to be VGA looking to try to close this one out as soon as they can. Quick shout out to Runeterra Academy for coming on through with the raid. Appreciate it on the side of Aegis, but looks like we might have the final game-ending fight coming on up just in a couple of seconds here. So just the perfect time to be tuning on in, as the siege is just relentless from VGA. They're already breaking through the inhibitor on the bottom side. They already break through the mid inhibitor as well. And PSW, they're going to have to make a stand here pretty soon, or it's going to be pretty much impossible for them to take any kind of favorable fight.
Yeah, and oh, here they go. This is it.
That's going to be the dive in coming on through from Sprint. He stole away the depth charge. He's going to use it to catch them all on out. And just like that, Mr. Big falls down before he can even ultimate. That's going to be the same thing happening over to the side of the Samira. And now the dive comes on through from the side of Virtue Gaming. A nice heartbreaker to finish on off the side of General VG before he can even get back into his base. That's another 5-4-0. Although actually Ben Zeitzen, he's still just hanging out in the bottom lane. But he's losing the game over on the other side. Might as well have been taken out, as he can't do anything, while VGA, they take game number 1 here in the Aegis Defenders League.
Yeah, very, very convincing fashion for them, Gordo, and that was just overall a wonderful performance to see out of them. That being said, I have a sneaking suspicion that we won't be seeing Viego for the rest of the evening, unfortunately, as it does look like Sprint is very comfortable on that champion, and with as little of a setup as he needs to kind of really take off, I don't think it's something that PSW can really afford to let through at this point, or they have to take it for themselves if they elect to take blue side in game 2.
Yeah, no, it's just so powerful coming out of the jungle as well. You know, everybody freaked out about Viego when he came out and what an overpowered champion he was. And he's still the exact same pick, pretty much, as long as you take him into the jungle. The nerfs were pretty much just for lane Viego. Otherwise, he's exactly the same coming out of this jungle. And Sprint really demonstrates that here. Just popping on off in all of these team fights, getting the crucial resets he needs, getting some nice ganks off early on to get Virtue Gaming off to the good start. And from there on out, they do not give up really any single team fights, and they're able to dominate the rest of the map.
Yep, and again, a lot of it just comes down to the pick potential that they're looking for. They have a really great front to back team fight, but when they can find these picks that can kind of force PSW to have to look to converge on this, otherwise they're just going to realistically just bleed out of the game even further. It's just really smart gameplay from VGA.
Yeah, absolutely was here, and really excited to see what they're going to bust down out here for game two. Pawn Sacrifice White, of course, going to be looking to strike back on here, take us all the way to game three in tonight's BO3, but we'll see what they're going to bust out to be able to do so. We're going to take a quick break here. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with game number two of Pawn Sacrifice White up against Virtue Gaming Ambition in the Aegis Defenders League. Welcome back, everybody, to week one of the Aegis Defenders League. Got our first matchup up with Pawn Sacrifice White up against Virtue Gaming Ambition. Saw Virtue Gaming take game number one in pretty convincing fashion. Now we're going to see if Pawn Sacrifice can strike back here for game number two.
Yeah, gonna be really interested to see what they have available to themselves as you kind of explained and talked about from the previous game. I don't think they can afford to let VA go through. The Lilia was a solid AP pick, a good AP threat for them, but I just don't think that it was really what they needed nor wanted. But we do see here, as we kind of get into our first bans here, it will be the second ban for them. The Tom Kench will be their first ban from PSW. Blitzcrank getting banned from VGA is an interesting decision for me, as they did, both teams left with the Nocturne, so I wonder if VGA is just going to want to first pick it here.
Yeah, it's the VGA taking the same strat that they took in game number one here. They're just looking to ban away the comfort picks from the side of PSW. They feel like if we're both playing meta comps, then we're really favored here. They're really only concerned about, when these guys get on the champions that they, not particularly one trick, but they play the most. And those are going to be the Vel'Koz, the Senna, and the Blitzcrank. And with the Vigo now banned away, it is going to be the first pick Thresh for the side of VGA. We'll see what PSW want to take. Diana was banned away in game number one. It is going to be locked on in for PSW here. Should be a little bit more of a powerful AP jungler coming through from Legit Sack.
Yeah, Legit Sack, really big fan of a lot of these AP junglers, and Diana has still been making waves, even in professional play. Has a lot of good playmaking potential for her, has innately an incredibly amount of high base damage and scales really well into the late game. We do see PSW picking up the Nautilus again from Mr. Big, as are we just looking at the same bot lanes? It is going to be that, but the Gwen is going to be locked in here for Chapanya, and that could be, well, technically a three-way flex, as it is jungle, potentially able to be in the jungle, but I suspect we're going to probably see it in the top lane here.
Yeah, definitely here, and I really like this draft for VGA thus far here. They get that really powerful bot lane duo of Aphelios Thresh again. They were able to get the 2v2 kill up against PSW in game number one with this duo, so should feel very comfortable running it back. And the power pick in the Gwen as well. You ban away the Viego, they're going to take that other new champion and ram it right down your throat in VGA. They lock it on in, and they're looking to take it here. As now BSW, they're going to lock on in the set here to go with their Diana and their Nautilus. A nice, little bit more of a meta comp coming through from PSW this game versus last game. I'd like to see that one as well. The set, I've heard whispers of it being a good matchup up against the Gwen. Haven't really seen too much of it be played successfully, but I know at least in pro they're at least willing to take the matchup. It's not the worst things you could play up against that Gwen.
Yeah, I don't know about you though, Gordo, but the little birdie on my ear tells me that Graves is a good matchup into Gwen, but I have a suspicion that we won't be able to see that fulfilled today, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely is. Now, we're hovering over some 80 carry options for the side of PSW. They're likely going to want to save their R5 for that solo lane. It is going to be the Tristana locked on in here. Could potentially be flexed to a solo lane. Could also just be going down bot with that Nautilus. Should be an aggressive selection. Again, looking to try to punish the Aphelios early on. Should potentially have a little bit of an easier time in the early lane than the Samira did, though.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, as the set can also potentially be a flex pick for them, right? You can put it in the mid lane, you can put it in the top lane. Probably won't see it as a support, as we do have a Nautilus on the screen for us. But something to mention is that VGA has subbed out their jungler, and we do have VJ Steal Your Grump in now instead of quick.
Interesting. So yeah, that is going to be a little bit of a change for the side of VGA here. Sprint not going to be around for this game number 2, it would appear. Although, actually, wait, he's sitting at 80 carry. I'm gonna wait and see the real draft first, see if maybe there's some mistakes coming on through here, or maybe there's some wild rotations coming on across. But no, it's gonna be quick slice at 80 carry.
Yep.
There we go. All right, yeah, no, I don't even know what I'm looking at this point. As now it is gonna be the Gangplank lockdown in here for the side of VGA. They're gonna take that one into the top lane, likely to face off against this set. Can pretty much guarantee that it is going to be Gwen in the jungle now, and PSW they're gonna round out their draft with the Lucian.
Okay, yeah. I'll be completely honest with you, Gordo. I really like PSW's draft this game. Having the potential for Nautilus set Diana combinations, and in the meanwhile, you have Lucian with the culling and Tristana's explosive charge and her maneuverability with rocket jump around the battlefield. It's going to be relatively difficult for VGA to kind of look to press past this front line that PSW is going to be presenting. They don't have a ton of backline access. Like, yes, Silas can take the depth charge or take the showstopper from set, and that will give you a little bit of access, but it's not going to be true access. So it's going to be interesting seeing these front to back team fights as they kind of unfold.
Yeah, I'm also really curious to see how PSW decides to assign these solo lanes. You would think that it's going to be set top and Lucian mid, but these ranged DPS characters, they are so good up against the Gangplank matchup in particular because they do so well at winning those barrel trades. So I'd be curious to see if the side of Pawn Sacrifice decides to send that Lucian to face off up against the Gangplank in a solo lane.
Yeah, 100% here, Gordo. And it's definitely a AP, well, I won't say it's an AP heavy team, but you do have a lot of scaling damage on the side of VGA, right? You have the Gangplank, you have the Gwen, you have the Aphelios. So if they're able to secure themselves an early game lead or neutral game states across the map like they kind of did in game 1, I think they're going to be set up pretty well for game 2 here.
Yeah, they very well might be. If does seem like it might be a little bit more set up for success than they were in that game number 1. Banning away the Viego, of course, always going to be a pretty good look for the side of Pawn Sacrifice, given how that first game did end up going for them here. And now, they've got some real, some of the more meta hard engage, I would say, in the form of this Diana, in the form of this set. Going to be a little bit more autonomy than the Ornn brings to the table for these champions, and should be some nice setup for the double 80 carry comp they've crafted for themselves.
Yeah, 100%. It does look like we're going to see General Vici on this set in the top lane, Benzighten in the mid lane on the solution, looking to really kind of put a punish onto Champagne Fan, who will be on the Silas in the mid lane here. So a really good counter pick coming out for PSW in terms of just normal aggressiveness. That being said, General Vici, if I recall correctly, I think Set does treat relatively well into Gangplank. If number 2 Ginger steps up too far at any point, Set has the potential to just kind of all in and one-shot you if you're not careful.
Yeah, should definitely be on the lookout for that as well. A pair of rough matchups for the Gangplank here in the form of number 2 Ginger. He's really going to have to play solidly on that Pirate to make sure he's able to get out of this laning phase unscathed, because regardless of what champion he's facing off against, he is certain to have a rough time in that matchup. And meanwhile now, really excited to see Sprint coming on through on this Gwen. It is Sprint, by the way. It was just a little bit of a mistake in our draft display there, as he's going to be the one running on in with the Gwen this time. Has the other Shadow Isles champion for game number 2, and should be looking once again to really pop off and try to carry the same way he did on that Viego.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really excited to see both of these teams kind of clash. That being said, Gwen also still a relatively, I won't say broken champion, but has a really high amount of damage output that if you're not prepared for, you can burst teams from 100 to 0. Being completely honest with you, Gordo, I think Gwen is one of the more balanced champions Riot's had on release, with the exception of Rel, because that champion just had no presence when she first released.
Yeah, it could be. I think so. Some might have a little bit more to say about that Gwen, but coming out of the jungle here should be certainly looking to just farm on up and be a big damaging carry force in the later game. And then The bot lane matchup here, there's been a change out for Pawn Sacrifice. 3 champions are going to be the same, but the difference is going to be the Tristana versus the Samira. Tristana was banned away from the side of Virtue in game number 1. We'll see if Jacob Keith on this Tristana can have a better performance in the 2-on-2, can maybe look to set Quick Slice and Mr. Bonnard themselves a little bit behind in the earlier game.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see Tristana, Jacob Keith on this Tristana taking this cleanse, be able to cleanse any of the hooks, Silas Everfrost, giving you a lot of extra mobility and less chance of dying just because you get locked down by someone. That being said, I do fully expect to see PSW's bot lane look to be really aggressive post level 2 here. So it's going to be up to Quick Slice and Mr. Bonehard to really be careful where they step in these lanes. And I really want to see this Thresh positioning himself a bit more aggressively in this lane. Playing back as far as they did in game 1 kind of left Quick Slice out to die a couple of times. And against the Tristana, even against the Samira too, but you can't really afford to kind of give those kills up.
Absolutely cannot here. And with that said, we are going to throw it to a quick break here while we get loaded on up into this game number 2. Do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back as soon as we can with all that game number 2 action to see if Virtue Game are going to be able to close it out in 2, or if Pan Sacrifice are going to take us all the way to a game 3. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to tonight's stream of the Aegis Defenders League group stage matchup between Pawn Sacrifice White and Virtue Gaming Ambition. Just watch Virtue Gaming take game number 1, and they looked good while they were doing it. Now they're going to look to try to close this one out in 2, but they're facing off against a pretty stacked PSW roster here. They got the Diana, they got the Set, they've got the Lucian in that mid lane. A nice, more powerful bot lane to come through for the laning phase than they did in game number 1.
Yeah, for sure, Gordo. And as we kind of take a look as the teams both 5-point here across the map, going to be really interested to see what Sprint wants to do on this Gwen early on. You have a really good setup, well, relatively good setup in the mid lane and bot lane, but not a whole lot in the top lane. And that's a matchup where number 2 Ginger just kind of wants to sit back and stay at least an arm's length away from General Vici, right? Set having a relatively good amount of gap closing potential on them, so we'll have to see how they play this lane out. For myself, that's probably going to be the lane that I want to be watching the most outside of bot lane, where we have, again, 2 very aggressive supports. You have the Aphelios, you have the Tristana, you see the cleanse and ignite coming out from Mr. Big B1 on the Nautilus. They want blood again, so they're going to be fishing for these hooks.
Yeah, we'll see how Quick Slice and Mr. Bonnard are going to be able to navigate that one in that bottom lane. Should have a little bit of mobility with the help of that Lantern, but do still need to make sure they aren't getting too locked down by the side of that Nautilus. And now we can see it does look like it is going to, in fact, be that lane swap. They do move the Lucian to play up against that Gangplank. Should be a very difficult lane for the Gangplank to play in there. And General Vici, he should just be looking to hold his own up against this Silas. Should be able to go in for those duels. Is a melee versus melee matchup, so isn't too difficult. But really want to see how number 2 Ginger in particular manages to navigate this.
Yeah, and one of the nice things about this lane too in the mid lane matchup now is that you can see both mid laners going in for some aggressive level 2 trades, getting quite low, because even though Chapania Fan has the innate healing available with the Kingslayer and it will scale with less health, because of Set's passive, General Vici is going to be remaining quite healthy throughout these entire exchanges. And because we have Doran Shield, you can see that they're both regenning back up to about 3/4 health just on their own.
Yeah, there's so much built-in sustain for both of these mid laners here. Should be a little bit of just some meatballs swinging some skills at each other, not really able to take one another down for the most part of the early phases of this lane, unless something crazy happens on the side of the Set, like getting a nice face breaker there up against Trapania Fan, dealing a bunch of damage, and a nice haymaker as well. Lands the true damage portion, and that should mean Trapania Fan just has to take an early recall.
Yeah, kind of just a little short on the damage there to really finish it off, but probably going to have to force out the TV from Trapania Fan unless the wave gets thinned out completely, but it does look like it will be burnt here. So an early TP coming out from Silas in the mid lane, meaning that it's going to be really difficult as they transition potentially into this first dragon here for the side of VGA to even want to try to contest it.
Yeah, the TP advantage for General Vici should be pretty big here. Not quite as big as it would be if they were up on the top lane. But does mean that should be an advantage nonetheless. And if Fan takes another bad trade like that, it means he's really going to lose a lot of control over what's occurring in this middle lane. Meanwhile, Quick Slice and Mr. Bonehard, they've managed to push on in this bottom lane. They've got Jacob Keith and Mr. Big V at least forced closer to their side of the map. Not quite going to be getting too much harass on across, but that's just that caliber of life. It gives you so much additional range, makes you like a Caitlyn in the laning phase, at least for those first few levels until you run out of ammo.
Yeah, and Quick Slice is doing a really good job of abusing that early game range lead that he'll have over Jacob Keith. Because Tristana, oh my god, another huge trade going down in the mid lane. And we see Fan just getting chunked below half health again. Genovici is just really doing all he can to bully the Silas and punish him for stepping up to try to see us.
Yeah, and you can see General Vici, he takes some damage back there, but this is just the way the champion interactions go. Vici gets that pit grit regardless of what's going on in the lane, is always going to have that additional regen, whereas Fan, he has to get in up close and personal and use the Kingslayer to actually get any of his regen back. And couple that with the fact that Vici's gone in for this Doran's Shield option, it really makes it difficult once these guys actually start trading with each other for Fan to ever really come out on top.
Yeah, 100%. And we can kind of see here, Legit Sec is just comfortable power farming these early games. Was potentially looking at something up in the top lane a little bit earlier, but really quickly called it off here. Sprint is kind of looking at the mid lane. We're going to check the Raptors here. Going to find Legit Sec is on them. They're going to have a little bit of a staring contest. Oh, they're going to try to force a 2v2.
Yeah, trying to get onto Sprint there, but doesn't look like Vici's going to be able to close that gap. The skip and slash comes on across. And it means that Set's not going to be able to pull the jungler back on in, not going to be able to make any plays here and now. It is going to be Sprint forced out of the opposing jungle, not really going to be stealing anything away today.
Yep, and it was just a really good sanity check for Sprint, right? Going, hey, you know what? I think Diana's going to be here. We can kind of take a look before you lose priority in the mid lane. We go and take a look. Yep, there she's right there. So, first dragon on the map, going to be a mountain dragon. This one's actually, honestly, I think is better. One of the better first dragons to get. The extra little bit of resistance boost that you get from it means a world of a difference, especially on someone like a Thresh, right? You're getting armor from your souls. Being able to boost that just in a little bit in the laning phase against a Tristana means that's going to be that much harder. But oh boy, Legit Sec found a nice flank here.
Yeah, no, it does look like number 2 Ginger not going to have too many places to go. Does get a nice flash over that thick top lane wall, and does look like he'll be able to secure an escape for himself off of that. That's going to be flash advantage in the top lane for the side of Ben Zeitzen. Potentially look to leverage that for some advantages in this 1v1 up against the Gangplank. And now he's just going to cull the wave here, going to make it push in as quickly as possible and try to get that recall, hopefully forcing number 2 Ginger to use the teleport.
Yeah, TP will be forced out from Ginger here, and we have to give kudos to him for that flash. That is an incredibly difficult flash to make that I see people fail at every level of the game, and being able to take that's quite good here. But in the meantime, we do see VGA abusing the fact that they know PSW's bot lane wanted to get the reset off early, and they're going to be able to try to pick up this first dragon here, and it does look like PSW is going to give it up without a fight.
Yeah, they just catch Jacob Keith and Mr. Bigby in a bit of a recall there in the bottom lane, and that means first dragon is going to go over to the side of VGA. It does look like it is going to be Infernal as the second dragon, so everybody a little nervous that it might be a Cloud Rift. Maybe the soul's not going to be quite as valuable as they are hoping it could be. Now, it's just going to be a little bit of a return to normalcy for the time being. Fan still getting shoved on in by the side of General Vici, but has managed to pick up enough CS to really stay competitive.
Yeah, 100%. And again, in the mid lane, it's just a giant slugfest in there. They keep going.
Ooh, here comes the Haymaker. It does get dodged away from in regards to the true damage. And now the trade back comes through from Fan. He heals a lot off of that Kingslayer, steals away the Showstopper, but is not going to use it at that time. Does not want to carry himself under that turret. Doesn't think he's going to actually end up taking the set out. But a nice trade from Fan, fighting back in this mid lane a little bit.
Yep, and you can kind of see here that Fan is itemizing relatively really smartly, actually. Going for the Ionian Boots of Lucidity and a Sapphire Crystal to give you that extra bit of mana that you have. You already have Presence of Mind for your runes, so you're going to innately regenerate mana when you go for these trades. And with the Boots of Lucidity, that just means Kingslayer is going to come off of cooldown that much quicker. So you can go for these longer and more extended trades in the mid lane.
Oh, and now there's Showstopper used by the side of Fan, but the flash Showstopper comes on through from Vici, carrying him back into Legit Sack. Looking to try to pick it up, but Fan actually turns it on around, picks up the first blood, and now Sprint is chasing on down Legit Sack. It's a 2-for-0 in favor of VGA. They strike first yet again in the mid lane, turning around the game.
Yeah, and that looks so good for the side of PSW at first, but Sprint was hiding right around the corner, had the needlework available, and we could kind of see here that that percent health damage combined with the slow meant that Legit just didn't have any way to get out after they blew their flash. So a quick and easy 2 kills going over to VGA, where PSW thought that they had the advantage. And with that, we're going to be just at over 1,000 gold lead here, going to be closer to about 1,500 here.
Yeah, oh man, Legitsack and Vici, they really thought that they had it in the middle lane, but just can't quite fight through the healing that comes through from the Kingslayer. That's why that's getting nerfed on the next patch, folks. But for here and now, Chapania fan comes up huge in that mid lane gank. And now Sprint taking on Benzaitsen in the 1v1 here. Lucian, I do not think you win this, buddy. Skip and Slash gonna come on across, but that's a nice culling to turn around the fight. Benzaitsen picks up a kill there onto Sprint, gets one back for the side of PSW, and is going to halt the Rift Herald to take as well.
Yeah, and that was just a little bit of the greedy take there from Sprint. We knew they didn't have priority up in the top lane, and they knew that Legitsack was going to be pathing towards their top side of the map. Their red buff was up, they went to their Krugs, and Sprint took it, and oh, Chapania fan getting kind of low.
Yeah, it's a nice face breaker there coming through from Vici to guarantee that hit on the true damage. And now Mr. Bonnard, he's getting turned around on here, is ignited, gets the depth charge on across, but doesn't quite go on down. Jacob Keith doesn't quite have the burst damage available, did have the ultimate, but was a little bit too scared of getting death sentence in response. So they are going to back on away there. They're going to take the fight win for themselves, but not going to show much else. Mr. Big goes in for the big dredge line on a 2 quick slice, but it's not going to land it.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about, Gordo and Champion Select, right? Mr. Bonehard positioned himself in front of Quick Slice, had aggressive posturing, and ate the hook for them. If Quick Slice took that hook, he was probably dead, right? If that dredge line connected to him initially, he was definitely dead, and this is going to be another dredge line.
Yeah, teleport coming on through from Chapania fan, though. The disengage comes on through from Jacob Keith. That's a stolen away death charge going to be used on Mr. Bigby. He's going to flash on away, trying to escape, but he just runs right into Sprint, who's right there with the scissors, snipping away on to this Nautilus, and is going to be able to pick up another kill for Chapania fan. 3-0 on this Silas. Talked about watching what the mid lane matchup was going to look like, and Chapania fan is off to an excellent start in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really rough now that Silas has this lead, has 6 stacks on the Dark Seal since it was the item that they chose to start off with. And with the launch chapter now, mana problems are all but a thing of the past now, so it's just going to be up to him to try to kill Vici on his own.
Yeah, Vici trying to turn the fight around now, but that privilege has gone far away from him at this point. Chapania fan has so many items in his pocket, has a nice substantial gold lead. Now Legitsack looking for the 1v1 up against Sprint, but not going to find it. He just gets turned around on. Now Jacob keeps trying to make something happen on back. Doesn't quite have the burst damage yet to take on out Sprint. He's going to have enough time to skip and slash away, and now he has his bot lane there for the backup. Quick slice from Mr. Bonard, going to force them on away, and now Mr. Bigby, he has to head for the hills as well. Gets snared on up by the Aphelios, but is going to avoid getting dredge line. And now Jacob Keith's going to be forced to flash on over the wall as well. The collapse for VGA is just too good at PSW. They have to hide under their turret.
Yeah, VGA's rotations have been absolutely incredible, and a lot of these are just coming off of Sprint, the jungler, knowing where they need to be on the map, where at the right time, right? Being able to be up in the mid lane for that potential 2v1 that PSW, that General Vici and Legitsack thought that they had, that quickly turned into a 2v2 that they lost. And now being in the bot lane, being able to help pick up the kill onto Mr. Big, invading into the jungle of PSW, looking to steal the Gromp away, and Legitsack thinking that he could take the 1v1, didn't respect the Gwen damage, and eventually fell down as well, giving a further lead over to VGA here.
Yeah, and Sprint has opted in here for the Gnasher's Tooth Rush, going it even before he starts getting any components for the Rift Herald. And that means he's got his item done super early, well ahead of the pace of Legitsack, and that should make him even more dominant in this 1v1. And look at the CS to boot here, a 30 lead for the side of Sprint. He's so massively ahead in gold over his jungle opponent.
Yeah, and it's not normal that you see a Diana this far behind in terms of actual CS, but Sprint has been doing such a good job of being proactive across this map that it's making it really hard for Legitsack to really look for anything.
Yeah, it certainly is making it quite difficult here. It's VGA, they're once again at a substantial lead here, have about 2k in their pockets at this stage, and really going to be up to PSW here to try to find a way to fight back on in. Legitsack not going to be able to burst anybody out on his own at this point. It's been set a little bit too far behind. Really have to put a lot of faith into Benzaitsen, the only one with any semblance of an advantage on this team, and they're going to look to try to move it farther ahead here. Dropping the Rift Herald in the top lane should be able to pick up first turret for themselves off this Rift Herald.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about this play. Like, it's one that they have to make, but taking out this first turret feels monumentally bad if I'm PSW, right? Now, number 2 Ginger as this Gangplank, yes, you're getting bullied by the solution. You can just freeze your wave at this turret, and it's going to be impossible for them to really contest you at that point. They have to send multiple members, and if you're a VGA, you're just going, great, I can take the rest of the map while you're not looking.
Yeah, and is pretty much what's going to happen here. VGA, they pick themselves up. Their second dragon are still stacking on up onto those. It is going to be the Cloud Soul, so maybe not the most impactful of them, but it's still going to be an objective that VGA want to keep on their radars. They've already got the first 2 dragons of the game. Japania fans still just pushing on up in this middle lane. You can see Vici can't really take those aggressive trades up against him anymore. So he can't really be expected to win out on them now that the mythic item's been completed for Japania fan.
You know, Gordo, I'm going to go on record here and say something that is what I believe the young ones would call a hot take. Cloud Soul is either the 3rd or 2nd best Cloud Soul in the game.
You mean Dragon Soul in general, right?
It's the best. Sorry, yeah, it's the best. It's the 2nd or 3rd best Dragon Soul in the game, and there will be a. Most people will disagree with me on that, but I think that the stat ability haste and the movement speed that you get from it is very undervalued by most players.
Fair enough. Definitely will at least give some value to some of these team comps in particular, especially if you look over at the side of PSW. But as we're saying here, Legitsack getting caught on out here is now getting a victim of Japania fan. Going to steal away the Moonfall, pull him back on in, and pick up a nice kill for himself here. He's going to feed that one over to number 2 Ginger, give him a little bit of relief in the top lane. And that is going to be another kill picked up for the side of VGA.
Yeah, Legitsack trying to scrape together any form of extra CS for themselves, looking to pick up anything that they can. But look at Sprint, again, in the mid lane, knows what they want to be looking for.
Yeah, Sprint getting caught on out a little bit here by Mr. Big and Jacob Keith, though, getting turned around now, but he just turns it around there with the needlework, does enough damage to the Justana to be able to take him on down. Now Mr. Big going to flash over, going to go for the dredge line, not going to be able to find it, though. Sprint is heading for the hills, is getting on out, and Japania fan is cleaning up in his wake as he finishes up another kill on to the Nautilus. Now here comes the showstopper, General VG going to be able to finally pick up that shutdown onto the Gwen, but he's getting chased down by the remaining members of VGA, and he is on the wrong side of the map. He's got nowhere left to go. 3 more members going to collapse in onto this set, looking to turn it on around. He tries to pull him on in with the face breaker, trying to burst out onto the Thresh. Not going to be able to do so as number 2 Ginger picks up another kill for himself on the backside. A huge play from the VGA jungler, keep himself alive and turn around in a 1 versus 2.
Yeah, that was absolutely massive, and we kind of talked about that again earlier, right? People just don't respect the amount of damage that Needlework deals from Gwen, and Jacob Keither got a really, really harsh reality check that, you know what, we caught the Gwen out, but she's still gonna 100-0 me, and it's just gonna be slightly unfortunate for the side of PSW as they kind of slip a little bit further down. Now the lead is still less than 3,000 gold for them, right? We're seeing that Benziton on the solution hasn't been in any of these team fights really. Opted to go for the Eclipse build, and this is actually really interesting to me. I like it, but I'm very curious to know if it's going to be better than Gale Force.
Yeah, definitely something to keep our eyes on out for theirs. It is going to be the Eclipse setup for Benziton. Should be going for a little bit of bursty damage there, and should potentially be able to utilize that one up against the Gangplank. Curious as to what factors really do influence that decision for himself there, but also want to keep an eye on Legitsack. He is going for the engaged focus build, as you often do on the Diana in competitive. You usually go for that proto belt, usually skip out on fun items like the Nashor's Tooth that you might see in solo queue. Instead, just primarily focus on being able to get in, get the Moonfall out, and hopefully Zonia's for yourself. To expect that to be the next item coming on in.
Yeah, 100% here, especially because as a 0 and 3 Diana, that's really all you can offer. Is you got to look for these potential playmaking opportunities for your team. But we do see the second Riftchild is going to be started up here by Sprint on this Gwen, doing an insane amount of damage to it, by the way. Does have the leeching layer completed, so well on their way to be getting this Riftmaker, but in the mid lane,
Number 2 Ginger getting caught out a little bit here. Jacob Keith going to try to finish him off, but that is a huge dark passage to come on through. Almost saves his life, but he does end up getting taken down by Ben Zeitzen, and now Mr. Boner, and he's going to fall down as well. Quick Slice going to join him. A nice pick by PSW in their own jungle. Next to them, a 3-for-0. They fight back in this game, close up a lot of the gold lead. Japania fan pushing in the top lane is going to claim some turrets for himself, but PSW, they'll take that any day of the week from this game state.
Yeah, 100%. We do see the mid lane tier 1 is going down, but it doesn't look like PSW's finished.
Sprint is in a 1 versus 3 here. He walks up, just doesn't respect the set, doesn't respect the CC coming on across, and is going to get taken on down there. 4 kills now picked up by PSW off of that mid lane play. They're going to look to turn it into their first dragon of the game.
Yeah, picking up the first Cloud Drake for themselves of this game, just denying the soul for VJ, ensuring that this game's going to go a little bit later, making sure that set can calculate all of the numbers to be mathematically correct as they proceed into this mid game here. And that was just a really good collapse by them. VGA just a little too far out and too overextended that they got punished pretty heavily by 5 members of it. And as much praise as we've been giving to number 2 Ginger throughout it, he failed his flash over the topside wall there into the river, hitting the really difficult flash up in top lane earlier, and then missing that flash there is a slight feels bad if for them.
Yeah, no. At the very least, Japani fan is the one who doesn't end up going down, and he's the one that's picked up the Magi's Soul Stealer. So really would be quite the disaster for VGA if they did end up losing their Silas at this point in the game, but he does still have that bonus movement speed, still does have all that additional AP. You can see he's looking to take aggressive trades up against Ben Zeitzen here, knows that he's the most powerful champion on the map, and should be looking to 1v1 anybody that he can.
Yeah, 100%. We do see the Zynius that's going to be the third item coming in for him. Does have the stopwatch and the Fiendus Codex finished already. Looking to delay the Seeker's Arm Guard, but he's going to get jumped on here.
Yeah, there comes the dredge line coming on across. Flashes instantly as soon as it's there, but I've caster cursed it, Trajan. It does look like Ben Zeitzen is going to be able to pick up that shutdown for himself. A huge amount of gold going into the pocket of the Lucian. All of the Magi stacks gone. He sells the Magi's instantly. It's not even worth it to have it anymore. Wow, that's a huge amount of Silas's gold lead pretty much just thrown in the garbage there.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about selling the Magi's, I'll be honest. We do see VGA going for a Baron take up here. It does look like PSW has vision all in their jungle, controlling it, but they don't have any vision on the Baron. And without seeing anyone on the side for PSW, they just, this is blind, they're gonna get this.
Oh no, PSW. That's the heartbreaker there. You pick up the huge shutdown. You've killed all 5 members of the opposing team over the course of the last couple of plays you make, and you just forget about the Baron. Just don't get the vision in time. Don't have the setup. And VGA, they just sneak that one away right under PSW's noses, and that's going to be a huge amount of gold going into all their pockets, and that's not even accounting for that purple buff that is going to allow them to get the push in pretty much all of the lanes for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, now that being said, one thing that I've noticed that VGA's been really wanting to do is no matter what composition that they're on, they just want to try to execute a 1-3-1. And I think at the stage of the game that they were at with the lead that they had on the Silas on Japania fan, they shouldn't have been doing that. They could have been looking for 4-1s or just looking to skirmish in PSW's jungle, but they weren't. But we do see 3 members of PSW looking for a collapse here.
Yeah, it's going to be the flash dredge line coming on through from Mr. Big. Not going to land onto Quick Slice, and now here comes the fight back from VGA. Death Sentence gets landed onto Legit Sack. They aren't able to finish him off, but they're just going to melt through the Nautilus as an afterthought. Here comes Japania fan looking to collapse down onto Legit Sack on this Diana. Has not been able to land the Abduct as of yet. That's going to be a nice buster shot to knock out away the Gangplank, but it does not knock away the Silas, who's now looking to pop off in this fight. Picks up a kill right away, steals away the Showstopper, does not use it, doesn't need to here, as there are 2 major members dead on the side of PSW, and that means the push is all in favor of Virtue Gaming. They've got the Baron buff, and they're going to look to crack open the base.
Yeah, and what did I say, Gordo? 4-1's going to be just so much better for them there. We see the TPing coming out from number 2 Ginger is in the mid lane now. In the meantime, Sprint's just in the bot lane, just taking these turrets at this Gwen. This Gwen, her passive and her skip and slash does so much damage. Vichi's going to try to go for something here.
Yeah, looking to try to pull under the turret Sprint if they possibly can. The teleport coming on through to keep this minion alive. Japania fan is back, is at full HP, and still has the Showstopper stolen on away. Keep an eye for what he is going to be able to achieve with that ability here. still is going to be PSW looking to keep their base alive, looking to not get double inhibited here. Look at those big gravitum shots, though. That's going to be a big root coming out across, going to force all the members of PSW to back on away because they know they would lose the fight if they took it then and there. A second inhibitor gets picked up for the side of VGA. So they are just pushing and pulling PSW around the map and getting everything for it.
Yeah, really, really good rotations from VGA. They knew what they wanted to do, and PSW saw their opportunity. They went, we have an opening here. Mr. Big's gonna flash. He's gonna try to land the dredge line, and it missed. And unfortunately, it's going to cost him his life, and it's going to cost PSW 2 inhibitors now. And with the 4th dragon about to spawn on the map, if I'm VGA, I'm going, you know what? We don't need that. We can just go top. This game is ours to lose at this point.
Yeah, certainly is. And VGA, you know, they aren't shaken by the fight loss. They aren't shaken by Trapania fan selling his Magi's. They know that they're still going to be in the gold lead. They know that their champions are still stronger in the team fights at this stage. And they know that they can take the fights that they want to. They just come right back on into the game. It was just a small hiccup in the long road to victory that VGA have been marching on this entire series.
Yeah, they've really been just doing they've been doing a really, really good job of just continuing up their proactive decision making. And that's one of the biggest things that with a lot of these amateur teams, you see a lot of them really lack. And it's the ability to kind of look at your game state and go, hey, this is what they want to be doing. This is what they want to be doing and looking for, and we can see that this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to force them into these decisions and make them choose the lesser of 2 bad choices.
Yeah, absolutely here. And, you know, sometimes maybe they don't even pick the lesser one, maybe not have all the information available for where VGA is. And that's where they strike, where they're able to claim themselves these huge gold leads and these huge victories. So now with this almost 6K gold lead, VGA going to be looking to best up with the last inhibitor. That's going to be a big engage coming through onto Quick Slice, but he's just going to flash on away. Here comes Jacob Keith going in aggressively, trying to pick up the kill. He's not quite going to be able to finish it on off, but does force Quick Slice out of the fight. Now look at the rest of the turnaround coming on through. Legit Sec gets taken down by Trapania fan, who flashes on away. He's going to be able to survive thanks to the Zonias. Now General VG going in for another engage is going to get a nice stun out of Trapania fan, trying to shut him on down with the showstopper. Not going to be able to do so. Sprint now just popping on off in the base. He gets a double kill onto both of the carries, and just like that, VGA win game number 2 here. They're going to take their first series in the Aegis Defenders League 2-0, start on off in first in their group.
That was an absolutely dominating performance, Gordo, from the side of VGA here. And it was really funny because while PSW was looking for that pick, and they got the hook and the dredge line onto Quicks there, but Gwen just went, you know what? I don't need to be a part of this fight. I'm just going to take your base. Took both of the Nexus turrets, was starting to hit the Nexus when PSW realized that, hey, we have to pull back and try to stop this. And by then, they just were able to get collapsed on, and the fight was over.
Yeah, and PSW, they were so close several times in that fight to actually being able to take down a major member and maybe get a little bit of fight back, get a little bit of resets there for the rocket jump on the Tristana, but it just never came on across. They didn't quite have enough damage from Jacob Keith to be able to finish on off onto the Aphelios. And after that, you could see that General VC, he tried to make a big turnaround happen. He tried to burst on through Trapania fan, couldn't do that either, who managed to stay alive for so long with that Zonias in what was basically a 1 versus 4. It all just ends up all coming up towards the side of Virtue Gaming Ambition. They dominate the last fight as they dominated both games. They take down the Nexus.
Yeah, 100%. It was just a really, really good performance from all of them, and you could see the adaptations that they were making throughout it, right? And this is the team, and this is the skill level where we're going to see players that and teams that they know how to make these adaptations. They went, great, our 1-3-1 didn't work. We're going to force a 1-4 or 1-4 or 4-1, and being able to split the map in such a way because the Silas is so far ahead means that you want to be taking these fights with them there, and they were able to correctly make that adjustment.
Excellently played there by the side of Virtue Gaming Ambition. We are going to take a quick break here, but we're going to be right back with some of the members of Virtue Gaming Ambition here for a quick post-match interview. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everybody, to the Aegis Defenders League stream. We are here on the interview desk with number two Ginger here. Congratulations on that 2-0 victory in week number one. How are you feeling after starting off on such a good start?
Oh, thank you. It feels really good. Especially coming in playing against the other tier one team in our division. It felt like a pretty easy, convincing win. So we feel pretty confident going here from out.
Yeah, this is a new season for you in terms of roles, is it not? You used to be a mid laner and you're swapping up to top lane to play with these guys.
Yeah, yeah. Top laner is pretty rough to find right now, so it was a pretty easy transition, and it's going pretty well so far.
Very cool, very cool. And so we saw you definitely did some prep up against Pawn Sacrifice White coming on into today's match as the other tier one team there. Saw you were banning out a lot of those comfort picks. Was that really your main draft strategy coming into tonight's matches, or did you have some other things that you were looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely targeting comfort. I mean, their mid laner has a very, very high win rate on Vel'Koz, so we didn't want to give that over. Senna is very disgusting right now, and we weren't really worried about any jungle bans at all coming into this, since it seemed legit Sack was more filling into that role.
Now, walk us through some of the thought processes through the game for your team. We saw a lot of proactivity in terms of TPs and collapses. Was it that you guys were just that confident in your play, or was it more along the lines of we recognize what they're looking to do, or and this is how we're going to respond?
We felt in both games that we kind of just outscale at a point with, Silas, Aphelios, Viego. We just had to wait for them to make the mistakes. If the game goes even, eventually we'll just take over the game. That's kind of how both games went. They were forcing plays, made mistakes, and we answered.
Very good, very good. So we've seen a lot more of these solo lane swaps coming on across in the meta lately. Seen a lot of top laners going mid, a lot of mid laners going top, based off of just the matchups and champion select. As somebody who's now played both roles, do you think that's really the future here? Is everybody just swapping on around based on what their best matchups are, rather than specializing in one particular lane?
Yeah, I mean that's the meta right now with flex picks. I mean in game one we did it, and you get small inherent advantages with having the correct runes. They did it to us in game two, and it was a bit punishing with the runes. Especially if you're mid and top are both flexible. Doing that, it's a very very big advantage if your team's able to do that, and something every team should look to do.
That's awesome. Really, really good.
All right. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us, number two Ginger. Really appreciate you coming on out to join us on the interview desk here. Congratulations on our win. Is there anybody you want to shout out before we call it a night on this stream?
Oh, well, thank you very much. I definitely want to give a shout out to the producer Quanta, always hyping me up. Big shout out to our team leader Sly for putting this all together, and big shout out to our jungler Sprint for showing up to the game and shot calling very well.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning on in to the first broadcast of the Aegis Defenders League. We'll be right back next week on the same channel, same time. But until then, have an excellent evening and an excellent week.